Arctic.
A former police officer with the Uvalde school system is back in court this week. Adrian Gonzalez is accused of not doing enough to stop the shooter who opened fire on Robb Elementary School in 2022, killing 19 students and 2 teachers. ABC's Peter Haralambous is in Corpus Christi, Texas.
I've spoken to a few former prosecutors. The way they looked at this case is that prosecutors are trying to really show the severity of this, the toll the death toll that took place, how tragic this was for teachers, for the victims, for the families of those victims. All of that to make the point that someone should bear responsibility for this beyond just the shooter, that police officers who responded like Gonzalez bear some criminal responsibility and should be held accountable.
Defense attorneys, meanwhile, say the shooter was active and dangerous and that Gonzalez did everything he could to stop the shooter. Canadian authorities are investigating a brazen gold heist. Arsalan Chaudhry is accused of running a major operation and is in custody, but police say a second person may be involved.
The gold had been ordered from a refinery in Switzerland, flew into Toronto, and there it was intercepted, and somehow it's thought that this warehouse manager was able to arrange it so when the truck drove off, they could show a fake receipt showing that its contents were seafood.
ABC's Aaron Katersky. Apple now says Google's artificial intelligence will power the next version of Siri, its voice assistant. I'm Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05, good afternoon. I'm Will Feelright with your local headlines as we begin KVNU's Fourth People Show this Monday. Well, some good and bad news. Utah's snowpack saw a significant recovery this past week as a series of powerful storms delivered more than 5 feet of fresh snow to several mountain resorts, pushing statewide averages toward the seasonal norms. Now, as of Friday, Alta, Snowbird, Brighton resorts all purported over 60 inches of new snow just since New Year's Day. Of course, the storms were able to bring enough snow that Cherry Peak was able to open over the weekend. Beaver Mountain, meanwhile, has been open for almost 2 weeks now. And the surge did help the statewide snowpack still jump from a dismal 57% of the median to 76% in just over a week. Now, hydrologists have noted that while the season began with record warmth and shallow, dense snow, the recent cold front has provided a much-needed boost to the state's primary water source. Turning to college basketball, Utah State delivering a historic performance Saturday night, handing Boise State its largest home loss of the century with a 93-68 victory at Extra Mile Arena. Now the win improves the Aggies to 14-1 overall, and it keeps them perfect in Mountain West play. Head coach Jared Calhoun after the game.
There's way too much, Scotty. Number one is the connectivity of the group and the prep that we put in. Not wasting days leading up to the game, right? The fans and everybody gets to see the final result. But the process of getting to the game is really important. I think our guys are really dialed in.
Senior guard M.J. Collins Jr., the conference leading scorer, fueled the offensive onslaught with 25 points, while junior Mason Falsliv nearly notched a double-double, contributing 16 points and 9 rebounds. Drake Allen added a season-high 14 points and 8 assists. Now Utah State returns to Logan coming up Wednesday night as the Aggies will host Nevada in the Spectrum. Well, new research from Utah State University is revealing that a simple metric, the number of days above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, is a reliable predictor for wildlife risk, forecasting a dramatic rise in fire activity across the state by the year 2050. Now, the study, which was conducted by researchers at the Quincy College of Natural Resources, analyzed nearly 1,500 wildfires since 1984. Now, what they found was the evidence suggests that if current temperature trends persist, land burned in Utah forests could increase by 60%, while non-forested areas like shrublands could see a staggering 130% increase in fire frequency within 25 years. In other news, a 47-year-old man was arrested on Friday for allegedly robbing a local credit union, telling investigators that he committed the crime because he was broke and facing eviction. Ryan Williams faces a charge now of aggravated robbery following the incident that happened at the Mountain America Credit Union on West State Street in Hurricane. Now, according to a probable cause affidavit, Williams had threatened a teller by claiming that he had a firearm, though he later told police that he never actually possessed a gun during the robbery. He claimed that he stole the money because he was broke. Well, we're going to continue to see increasing haze over the next couple of days, and this high-pressure system just keeping all moisture out of the area for at least the next week, as we'll see daytime temperatures staying in the low 30s, overnight temperatures in the teens, with no real change in the forecast coming at least through the next 7 days. And weather this hour is brought to you by our friends over at Quality First Insurance. Matt Robbins can help take care of your insurance, whether it's for your apartment, your home, your vehicle. Call Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance at 752-0101. And I'm Will Feelright for KVNU News.
If the cold temps lately have you turning up the thermostat, I've got a more efficient way to keep your home comfortable. Call Cardall's Insulation. That's right, insulation. Now you're probably wondering, does insulation actually go bad? Well, if your home was built before 1980, you should really consider new insulation, because today's insulation is so much better. Even a lot of newer homes don't have sufficient insulation. So if your home is cold, if you feel a draft, call 755-5012. Cardall's Insulation, 755-5012.
Breaking news, stimulating talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Do you suffer from consistent symptoms like these, and no matter how many doctors you see, things don't improve?
I definitely had fatigue and unexplained weight gain, brain fog, my joints hurt, and I just didn't feel like me. The last couple of years, I just had doctors telling me, oh, you're over 40, we can put you on prescriptions, and I just knew that wasn't what I wanted.
In a conventional model, it's typically one size fits all. Everyone's herded around like sheep and treated the exact same way. When they come to Red River, it's important to customize the treatment plan for that specific patient.
Talking with Dr. Swindlehurst, I just immediately felt like he was listening. He had a plan for me individually as a human being. If you're feeling the way that I was feeling, there's no reason that you can't go in for a consultation and do your blood work and see what they say.
If you're battling autoimmune symptoms, we have personalized options just for you.
Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER.
Call Red River today.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. I'm Jason Williams. It is Monday, January 12th. 37 degrees here at the Radio Ranch at 4:11 in the afternoon. As you heard from Will there during the news, the snowpack totals statewide are inching closer to what would be normal for this time of year. All a good sign. There are still some areas in the state that are or that should be worried. Here in northern Utah, though, we did creep up a bit more. We'll break down the total snowpack statewide from recent storms in just a bit. Coming up on the show, a new club at Utah State University tackling an interesting problem, but it's one that raises a lot of questions about, you know, the overall idea of kids being prepared for the world. New club has started just at the beginning of the fall semester back in September, titled officially the Utah State University Culinary Arts Club. But the reason for the club is addressing what the student founder behind the club, Joshua Cooney, says should be described as cooking insecurity. We've all heard of food insecurity, but cooking insecurity, Joshua says, is common on college campuses. Students arrive and they don't have the skills to cook for themselves. Leads to a lot of unhealthy eating habits and additional expenses for both the students and their parents who may be paying for some of their education. So we'll talk about what this means and how the university decided they were going to get behind this student-led club and actually make it a campus-wide project. Kind of some cool stuff. Also, the confirmation hearing. Utah State Senate Committee, Health and Human Services Committee met this morning to do something simple, something that not even political junkies like I take time to watch, which is confirm someone to a state position that everyone knows they're going to be confirmed to. The person in question is named Julie Ewing, began her work at the Utah Attorney General's office, worked in Health and Human Services for years, and officially, as of the committee vote today, she has been confirmed after being nominated by Governor Cox to replace an outgoing state Medicaid director. So Julie Ewing will be the new state Medicaid director here in Utah. But what took place, I think to everyone's surprise, even Julie, as she made the remarks, was a conversation that was really illuminating about, well, I mean, so many things. Aging, the state's role in helping people who find themselves on a too small fixed income at a certain age, with very few options, and of course, not a long list of employers that want to hire them, but also how states are impacted by changes at the federal government level every time there's a new president, and they make vast changes to Medicaid services, Medicaid policy, what that means for states and the expense to taxpayers keeping up with those constant changes. It was a fascinating conversation that came out of just some simple questions from the committee in what was, again, a pretty routine committee meeting. And then the whole thing just kind of evolved, I'm going to say, not devolved, into this broader conversation. But it raises some important questions. And one Utah lawmaker who was not at the committee hearing but caught wind of the excitement that the discussion was getting online, gave the committee hearing audio a listen, which you can do yourself at le.utah.gov, and said, this is something we maybe need to get serious about here in Utah, trying to standardize some of this, make it less of a what's going on this year question for Utah's aging and retired population. Pretty interesting discussion. So we'll get to the audio from that later on in the show. This I've posted to our Facebook page as well. And of course, when we've discussed growth in Cache Valley, it's a common topic here on the show. And the overall question remains, again, what exactly can states do about this? But the National Conference of State Legislatures has a really interesting article today showing that housing challenges, the crisis that exists around, basically a lack of inventory in almost every state in relation to demand. It's not obviously not a total lack. It's not like no new housing is being built, no new houses are available. It's nothing like that. But in relation to demand, mayors around the country, including most here in Utah, chimed in on this and said, yes, this is a major crisis. The conversation via State Line, a city news effort as a subsidiary of the National Conference of State Legislatures, which is a nonprofit organization whose entire reason for existing is just collecting information from all around the country and trying to disseminate that information, that they might get from one state legislature to the other 49, so they can learn from each other. There's no agenda. No policies are given preference or otherwise. It's meant to be a sort of an informational clearinghouse for state lawmakers, understanding that they can't be experts on every single issue, not realistic to assume otherwise. But in this discussion, State Line writers say, talking with mayors from all around the country, Utah gets a mention in this. They said whether it's a small-town mayor in southern Utah or the mayor of Columbus, Ohio, or Madison, Wisconsin, housing remains the number one priority mayors are hearing about not only from city councils that they work with and often in some cases report to, but also during their campaigns for office, as they speak with constituents at neighborhood meetings and things like that. Basically, every mayor surveyed, and this was about 800 mayors from around the country, every mayor surveyed said the number one priority they heard about or what they heard from constituents that should be the number one priority is housing. And State Line says this is such a nationwide issue that it's literally redefining what it means to be a city mayor. In a series of conversations, mayors, again, from big cities and small, all around the country, Midwest, West, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, said collectively, Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther spoke as a spokesperson for the mayors that were surveyed through this U.S. Conference of Mayors surveying, said housing is by far one of the most important issues facing every mayor in America right now, regardless of state, regardless of city size. It impacts everything from safety to the workforce to public transit planning. Mayors are on the front lines of the nation's housing crisis, and Congress needs to start listening to us. It is a crisis. More than half of the mayors in this survey expect affordability in their cities to decline over the next year or two. So again, more than half of the mayors surveyed said, based on what they're being told, the information they're receiving, the affordability crisis, the housing crisis is not going to get better over the next year or two. It's actually going to get a little bit worse. Now, nearly all of the mayors say that residents, well, a couple of standards. Residents are dissatisfied with housing costs. I think that's a no-brainer. I don't think anybody, in the midst of buying a home or selling a home or thinking about it down the road sometime soon and looking around at home prices and maybe deciding where to live based off of that, I don't think anybody is going to look at that and go, oh, yeah, it looks like things are great. These prices are reasonable. No, that's a given. But Ginther went on to say that what they're learning statewide is that the immediate picture, again, speaking as a spokesperson for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, said that more than half of mayors, again, expect the affordability crisis in their cities to get worse next year and possibly the year after before things start to turn around. That's a pretty scary admission. Again, based on the data they're receiving and what the Conference of Mayors, a national nonprofit conference, has collected, surveying their own members, again, including many mayors of both big and small cities here in Utah. And they said that it's going to get a little bit worse. Quoted in the story is Republican Mark Shepard, mayor of Clearfield, Utah, and Democrat Rex Richardson, mayor of Long Beach, California. They're teaming up to try and make this problem Congress's. Not to be mean, but there are some things that both Clearfield, Utah Mayor Mark Shepard and Long Beach, California Mayor Rex Richardson say Congress can and should have already been doing. They cite some things: expanding rental assistance where appropriate and expanding affordable housing programs. But they said it needs to go further. They said that Congress needs to be partnering with business leaders to boost supply. And they lead a coalition of mayors and CEOs for the U.S. Housing Investment Organization. So, again, Mark Shepard of Clearfield, Utah, was the mayor quoted at the forefront of this, but the surveying was done nationwide and includes many other mayors here in Utah, big cities and small towns, and concludes, again, housing is the pivotal issue in the mayoral races that just took place in many states, municipal races, and those that will still take place for those mayors who were elected in the on years, along with the vote for U.S. House and Senate that will take place this year. It's a pretty. I think this is the first time that I've seen, at least, a full picture 30,000-foot view look at this issue. And so in the discussion, they talk about, 30 states right now have barred cities from enacting rent controls. Those are regulations that say that only under certain very tight conditions can you jack up rents. And oftentimes those are passed with a sunset date, meaning they're meant to deal with an immediate housing crisis. They don't mean to leave. They're not intended to be left in place ongoing. Some states do actually have rent control measures permanently on the books, but very few. But 30 states have enacted them temporarily to try and at least curb the cost growth for renting. But when it comes to housing construction, they're getting double whammied. Clearfield Mayor Shepard said that everything from interest rates, the effects of the tariffs on housing supplies and construction supplies, cost of materials in general, those are conditions that we can't fix at the city level, Shepard said, meaning Clearfield, Utah, who he's mayor of, there's very little he can do to get the tariffs lifted by the president or change the cost of construction materials that are jacking up the cost of home construction, even here in Utah, even in Clearfield, he said. But he said what we can do at the city level, Clearfield or otherwise throughout Utah, whether it's Colorado or throughout the West, whether it's Utah, Colorado, Montana, or whether it's somewhere in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Maryland on the East Coast. He said, regardless of where a mayor might be, what we all agree on, what we all know is that planning smarter, permitting faster have to be parts of this. And that's where Congress needs to step up. Back to Ginther, the Columbus mayor, he agreed with Clearfield Mayor Mark Shepard. He said that, look, we could talk all day about housing and how complex this is. But he said, none of you would imagine a mayor in the country, or could imagine a mayor in the country who doesn't have housing constantly on their minds. It's redefining our jobs right now. To be mayor of a city means you are the housing czar, whether you are an expert or not. His advice to incoming mayors, become an expert as quickly as possible. But Ginther says both the city's biggest, or cities around the country, their biggest challenge, it isn't political will. It isn't getting the public on board. Those two things are already in place where they need to be. There is the political will. The public is on board. They're being most negatively impacted by these costs, Ginther said. But he said, for example, my city, Columbus, Ohio, we need 200,000 more housing units in the next 10 years just to take a dent out of costs of rent and home ownership in this state. What we have the resources to build right now, what there is private capital and private interest in building right now, about 80,000. So just over a third of what's needed. Ginther said he's in his second term, and he said this has only gotten worse from his first term. We're not doing the right things. But again, the call is for Congress to step up on this. In Utah's Davis County, where Clearfield sits, you have Hill Air Force Base. Mark Shepard, the mayor, points out in the story. And he says since the 1940s, a large share of the military Air Force personnel have worked and lived off base. But he says here in my city, about 32,000 people total, and once entirely blue collar. Starter home capital was pretty easy to find up until about 10 years ago. And he said that's transformed into a market of military families who can no longer afford to live here. In fact, today we have more Hill Air Force Base employees living out of county and even sometimes 2 counties removed than ever before. Clearfield Mayor Mark Shepard told State Line News in this story, he says, it's scary. We used to be where people came. We used to be the place where people came for their first homes. Now, I heard just yesterday of 4 airmen stationed at Hill Air Force Base who are collectively splitting a 2-bedroom apartment with bunk beds. Let that sink in a little bit. That's how bad it is. Shepard, for his part, they've permitted about 4,000 homes over the last 5 years, and they've Clearfield has kind of been at the forefront of vertical development, building taller instead of sprawling. But Shepard said it's impossible for a single city to keep up on its own. The states have to get involved, and Utah has to a large extent. But he said it's time for Congress to actually deal with this, and they're kind of punting the issue. Again, he was echoed by Democrats on that as well. So some terse words, if you will, when it comes to housing from mayors all around the country, including several cities in Utah represented in the general surveying about the housing crisis. But most quoted in the story, again, is Mark Shepard, who is the Republican mayor of Clearfield, Utah, and supplies a pretty sobering look at where housing is. I know most of us out there experience this through either hearing about, or if you're unfortunate enough to be in the process of trying to buy a home right now, experiencing more directly than hearing about the current housing prices. But it really does kind of hammer things home. Again, that story, Shepard telling the story from Clearfield, Utah, of 4 airmen currently stationed at Hill Air Force Base who, because of no other options, all 4 of them are splitting a 2-bedroom apartment with bunk beds. And that's not because that was their choice. It was because housing prices keep them from being able to really do anything but that. That kind of brings things home a little bit. And then Shepard, again, repeating myself here, but it's worth repeating, the idea of most of Hill Air Force Base's employees now living 1, 2, even 3 counties away, as opposed to living in Davis County, which was traditionally the case, Shepard said, up until about 10 years ago. So you can kind of see how this has evolved and changed. Now, some of this, honestly, we're going to be able to fix. Some we can't. As the state grows, certain changes are probably going to become a bit permanent when it comes to the housing market, housing supply, housing locations, and things like that, where the density centers are. But there are a lot of things that can be done, and Shepard, along with some Democrats from other states and the State Line magazine helping get word out on this, are saying they're calling on Congress to stop kicking the can down the road. It is going to take federal involvement to some extent, whether that be on permitting reform or also, supplying, just juicing the situation a little bit with some even temporary funding aid. Shepard and others say that's the only way we're going to dig out of this one. And again, in the surveying, more than half of the mayors surveyed predict that for their city alone, housing costs are actually going to get a little bit worse before they get better. That's pretty sobering. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. State Line, again, an online news outlet that's part of the nonpartisan National Conference of State Legislatures, interviewing mayors all around the country about this Association of Mayors surveying that was done, and speaking with a mayor from here in Utah, Clearfield, Utah mayor, even in the story, for some real insight into how the housing crisis is impacting residents, and as Shepard put it in the story, completely redefining the job of a city mayor these days. Says, again, if you want to be an effective mayor, you need to be a very informed housing czar. If you're not that, get up to speed as soon as possible. We'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People after the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. As we've been talking about, Cache County Attorney Taylor Sorensen announcing his resignation just days after confirming that he would not be seeking re-election. Now, his departure is effective February 8th. In a letter to the Cache County Council Friday afternoon, Sorensen cited a new local employment opportunity as the primary reason for his midterm exit, noting the need to support his young family. Now, Sorensen has served since 2022 following a period of high turnover in the office. Now, the outgoing attorney used his resignation also to issue a sharp warning against recent budget cuts, specifically a $500,000 reduction to his office. Now, he called that decision a dangerous mistake that leaves the county vulnerable. Now, he went on to write that lawlessness is not a winning strategy, and he urged officials to reinvest in law enforcement to avoid systemic failure. Now, the Cache County Republican Party will oversee the process to appoint an interim replacement to serve out the remainder of Sorensen's term. Meanwhile, gang activity in Salt Lake County is involving increasingly younger children and occurring more frequently in public spaces, according to the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Metro Gang Unit. Lieutenant Nate Hutchinson, project director for the Salt Lake Area Gang Project, stated that children as young as 9 and 10 years of age are being recruited now, as older gang members often will exploit youth, knowing that minors will face less severe legal consequences. Now, Hutchinson noted that Utah's gang landscape is unique because groups rarely claim specific territories, and that leads to random violent encounters in public areas like malls or parking lots, and this unpredictability increases the risk to innocent bystanders. Now, the warning, of course, follows the recent fatal shooting that happened outside of a funeral in Rose Park. While police have not officially confirmed gang ties in that case, Hutchinson emphasized that anyone can become a victim. In other news, a 41-year-old woman died Friday morning after falling 70 feet from a bridge while attempting to assist at a crash site east of Ogden in Weber Canyon. Now, the incident occurred about 6 a.m. along westbound I-84. According to the Utah Highway Patrol, a box truck stopped to help a driver that had been involved in a minor single-vehicle accident that had blocked one lane. Now, the passenger of the truck ran to the stranded vehicle to offer help. Now, as a third vehicle approached with screeching tires, both the driver of the crashed car and the woman attempted to move out of the way. Now, the woman jumped over a concrete barrier, unaware that the bridge dropped 70 feet to a railroad track below. Now, authorities cleared the scene by about 8 o'clock, but troopers are urging public to always call 911 during any roadside emergency and stay inside your vehicle, especially in icy conditions. And scary moments in southern Utah. A hot air balloon crashed into a power line Saturday morning after strong winds had forced an emergency landing, according to the Hurricane Valley Fire and Rescue Department. Now, the incident happened about 10 a.m. Authorities said that the balloon carrying 2 individuals had launched from the Hurricane Airport earlier that morning. While attempting to land, though, due to intensifying wind conditions, the balloon struck and became draped over the live power line. Now, responding crews from the Laverton Police Department and Hurricane Valley Fire Department established a safe perimeter around the balloon, instructing the occupants to remain inside the basket to avoid electrocution. Now, Rocky Mountain Power arrived on the scene shortly after and were able to de-energize the line, allowing emergency personnel to safely remove the people from the balloon, and luckily no one was injured. Well, high temperature is going to stay over the next couple of days in the low 30s as this high-pressure system is just keeping any chance of change in the forecast out of the areas. We're going to see increasing haze over the next couple of days. That could lead to a thicker inversion here in especially northern part of the state. Now, we will see temperatures overnight getting down into the teens, and as of right now, no chance of any change coming in the forecast through the next 7 days. And it's Mountain Valley Heating. They want you to feel the love with Mountain Valley Heating and Air. For all of your furnace and AC needs, remember Mountain Valley Heating, 753-5170. And I'm Will Feelright for KVNU News.
ABC News, I'm Mike Dabuski. Markets closed the day somewhat calmer than how they started as investors reacted to the news that Fed Chair Jerome Powell is facing a criminal investigation from the Justice Department. Powell says it's over comments he made to Congress about renovation efforts at the Fed, but also raised concerns the Trump administration is trying to pressure him to lower interest rates. Minnesota and Illinois, alongside the cities of Chicago, Minneapolis, and St. Paul, are suing the Department of Homeland Security and the Trump administration. Those areas have seen a surge of federal immigration troops in recent months, and last week, Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey.
We are not asking ICE not to do ICE things. We are asking this federal government to stop the unconstitutional conduct that is invading our streets each and every day.
And 15,000 nurses in New York City went on strike today. This is ABC.
You work before dawn and long past dusk. At Black Cliffs Equipment, we see that. That's why we bring you Massey Ferguson tractors. Right now, get 0% financing for up to 96 months on select tractor models. Plus, great offers on hay equipment. And when the work gets tough, our service team is here to help with genuine AGCO parts. As a way of saying thanks for all you do, mention this ad when you come in for a free gift. Black Cliffs Equipment, your Massey Ferguson dealer in Hyde Park.
bringing Wall Street to Main Street. From your local experts in downtown Logan, this is the Adams Wealth Advisors Market Report.
Good afternoon. This is Mitch Green with Adams Wealth Advisors. Stocks closed the day slightly higher after a turbulent morning as the administration moved forward with a probe into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, spurring concerns about the future of Federal Reserve independence. Federal Reserve independence is typically seen as a major reason why the United States has maintained a successful economy. Jerome Powell issued a statement that the move should be seen in a broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure, and that this is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 86 points to 49,590. The Nasdaq rose slightly by 0.08% to 25,788, while the S&P 500 edged higher by 0.16% to 6,977. Sector performance demonstrated broad-based gains, with a few sectors experiencing idiosyncratic declines. Financials ended the day in the red after the president floated the idea of a 10% credit card interest cap. The energy sector posted losses despite both oil and natural gas advancing, likely due to the ongoing clash over Venezuelan oil investment plans and the associated uncertainty. Communication services experienced some rotation out of the sector today as well. Meanwhile, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and gold and silver posted solid returns as trust in the U.S. dollar is experiencing erosion. Tomorrow, an important inflation gauge will be released, which will help inform the direction of future monetary policy as long as the Federal Reserve remains independent.
That's your update from Adams Wealth Advisors, guiding your financial future one day at a time. For personalized help planning yours, reach out to us at 435-752-1702. See you soon, Cache Valley. Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com.
Everyone has an estate, but do you have an estate plan? This is Jace Allen, Northern Utah's estate planning attorney. At Allen Law Office, wills and trusts are what we do. If you've been putting it off, now is the time to get it done. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones, protect your legacy, protect your assets. Start today at cashlegal.com or just search Allen Law Office. Wills and trusts are what we do. Allen Law Office.
Do you know a champion in our community? Nominate them for the KVNU Above and Beyond Salute. Every Friday morning at 8:30, we'll spotlight a firefighter, law enforcement officer, healthcare worker, or other deserving individual and give them a $40 gift card to Firehouse Subs. Submit your nominations for the Above and Beyond Salute by visiting kvnutalk.com. Help us recognize the champions in our communities. The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Just got off the phone with a guest. I very rarely do I try and talk someone into doing a segment. Usually people are pretty eager, but when you're in a situation where, there could be fireworks, I know people want to be careful, but I'm hoping we're going to be able to actually speak in person soon with the, now at this point, resigning Cache County Attorney Taylor Sorensen. But coming up, you heard Will mentioned it during the news there. It's the talk of Cache Valley today, but late Friday afternoon via resignation letter, the county attorney resigned. And coming up at 5, I'm looking at a copy of the resignation letter right now, and I've highlighted some bits. It's zesty, we'll put it that way. But, I think most people... I've never done any surveying on this. This is gut instinct. But I'm guessing most people are going to agree with the sentiments expressed by the county attorney as he explains his reason for this surprise resignation. And let me say that it's concerning, as a Valley resident, it's concerning the turnover we're seeing in the county in various offices. And, I don't know if this is a policy issue or a process issue or a environment and climate issue. I don't know, but I do know that the turnover's too high. Hopefully, we see this settle down. I think we're probably going to see that in the clerk's office. The treasurer's office has been pretty consistent. Assessor and recorder recently changed, but hopefully, Brett Robinson to Neil Johnson, if they're competent at their jobs, stick around for a while. And of course, County Sheriff Chad Jensen has been there a long time. New auditor Matthew Funk. So, we've just seen all this turnover. Hopefully, we're seeing the end of it. But I don't know. I've lost count. I think this is our fourth county attorney. Anyway, we'll talk about what Sorensen says in his resignation letter coming up at 5:10 today. And like I say, it's zesty. So you're going to want to hear this. I think this is so cool. And the university, I caught wind of this because the university has decided to take this newly formed student club and run with it. The club itself is officially titled the Utah State University Culinary Arts Club. It was founded just last fall, September of 2025, by a student in the culinary arts courses, Joshua Cooney. And Cooney said, that he originally he was just doing this kind of for fun. He said, I love food. Food is a universal love language. Everybody loves food. Everybody understands it. And food is one of the most reliable ways to bring people together. But he said that this quickly took on kind of a more serious lean as they started the club and as they got talking. They kept hearing again and again from students, from faculty, from their own other club board members that had done some volunteering at the snack center, the Student Nutritional Access Center, which is a on-campus food pantry of sorts. And Cooney says what they quickly learned is that there was an issue. And it's likely, I think he's right about this, he says this is likely not specific to Utah State University's campus. And he said different than some of the challenges that have been talked about already, which is food scarcity. Maybe students without the money to keep their own, pantries however their housing works full, or whether it's a temporary issue where students are making do with too little, so they're eating ramen for 2 weeks. That's a lot of people joke it's part of the college experience, right? And you're young and your body can handle it. But as Cooney correctly points out, there's another issue, which not his words, my words, but I would describe this as students showing up on campus, maybe their first time away from home, and they simply lack the skills to eat more healthily. Primarily, they maybe lack the skills to cook. So now Cooney and others involved, including staff advisor Jonathan Walters, are they're professionals, especially Jonathan. He went to a culinary arts school himself before becoming an instructor. And Cooney says that Jonathan Walters helped them put together some workshop events and set up some activities using the snack food pantry on campus to support the club itself in these activities. And then they connected some other faculty and staff. And basically what they did is joining together with other clubs and other organizations, they started doing kind of cooking classes. And he said that the response from students was huge. The mission of the club, of course, is to just celebrate food and the culinary arts. But he said, Cooney said, the mission of the club quickly evolved. We learned very fast that our culinary art skills could actually be put to practical use, and getting other students, if not passionate about cooking, but more self-sufficient and independent, less reliant on fast foods and microwavable meals, and more confident that they could actually pull out a pan and a few ingredients and cook something far more healthy. But Cooney says the club also wants to go further. They want to actually expand into, doing workshops, or trainings, if you will, through the club on how to shop smartly. What to buy at the grocery store in the produce section or otherwise that can quickly be turned into a meal that is far more healthy for you than some of the boxed, processed foods that students usually go for out of laziness or lack of time or lack of know-how. I think this is really cool. Now, obviously, this is more applicable or maybe only applicable to students who are living on campus, maybe far from family. But this is huge. The idea that students, and I'm not criticizing, in fact, I think you shouldn't criticize parents. My parents tried so hard. I didn't become what you call a qualified home chef, someone who could aptly cook food more than a couple of meals or two that are easy. I mean, everybody can make a sandwich, right? But I didn't become someone who could actually cook and cook well until I was probably mid to late 20s. And it was because I realized that my diet was garbage. But through college, you're usually not thinking of those types of things, right? You eat ramen, the microwave burritos, the Pop-Tarts for breakfast, things like that. That's part of being a college student. But does it have to be? Most apartments and even dorms are furnished in one way or another with the ability to cook a stovetop meal or even at least microwave something healthier that you've put together from fresh ingredients. And the issue, Cooney says, is lack of know-how. So he refers to this as a cooking insecurity. So you've heard of food insecurity, right? This is when someone is missing at least one of the 3 recommended meals a day. Cooney says this is cooking insecurity. He said the resources are there oftentimes for students. In fact, when it comes to resources, cooking will almost always save you money. We've all learned that, right, as adults. For $20 of produce purchased at a grocery store can go so far compared to the $20 you'd spend on actually I think it'd be about $25 now to get 2 combo meals and drive home with them. So it's whereas $20 at the grocery store, you could get 3 or 4 meals out of that, even for a family of 4 if you shop creatively. We know that, but Cooney says many students don't. So they want to bring their skills as appreciators and students of the culinary arts to a practical application, and they're doing that through the Utah State University Culinary Arts Club. For students interested in getting involved, there are easy ways to do that. But you can simply check the events calendar and find out when the club is meeting and what the topic is. But they're also asking for the community to step up. If you have, if you'd like to teach a workshop or be a part of teaching a workshop, if you would like to offer some culinary skills that you think you have that are unique to students, and of course this would be purely voluntary, they're asking people to reach out. You can find the Culinary Club, and also I took a look, and they actually have there was one recipe I actually made note of, but the Culinary Club, USU's Culinary Club, can be found on Instagram. It is simply USU Culinary Arts Club on Instagram. And Cooney says they're hoping that they can get rolling with more frequent activities and get spaces reserved for workshops and other things that they can, kind of step up and do these more often. And they want to make it accessible and welcoming, and they want to invite the community as well. So very cool stuff. Now, the club is still in its foundational period, which means that they aren't quite sure how big this will get, but Cooney says the response from the student body here in Cache Valley on USU's campus has been huge. And another person involved with the project, actually an engineering major, Montejo Camacho, he's a dual major. It's engineering and business management. He is here. He's Chinese, and he is one of the earliest members of this culinary club when it started in the fall. And he said that he got involved because he just wanted to learn how to cook better, and said it ended up being a great way to meet new people. And Montejo said, a goal of mine is that we, as a club, become better known. I'm hoping we're able to make a digital cookbook for our recipes that can be a USU staple. The USU Student Digital Cookbook might be available for all future incoming freshman classmen. And the videos from the workshops and things like that will be posted online as part of a permanent record. This is a really cool idea. Again, the USU Culinary Arts Club students hoping to take their club, originally intended just to be a chance to celebrate the culinary arts or goals to become a famous chef and food in general, and translate that into actual workshops and training events where they're teaching students how to cook for themselves and eat more healthfully. I love it. Check it out. There's some great photos the USU Statesman has alongside this story of some of the students, but also some of the events they have, and some cookies that actually look really good as well. But students getting creative and putting their appreciation of food and cooking to practical use. Link to the story on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of KVN News for the People right after this.
Get your furnace fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your furnace fixed, call Gary Riggs. If you're having heating trouble and you need your furnace fixed, just pick up the phone and call Gary Riggs. 435-512-6633. We'll come to you. Our service fee is low, just $25. We repair all brands and have certified installers. Get your furnace fixed, call Gary Riggs. Get your furnace fixed, call Gary Riggs.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shelley Flace with today's tip for kids from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Parents make all kinds of choices about their child's health. One important way you can protect your child's health is with vaccines. Viruses and bacteria are unpredictable, and even healthy children can develop severe complications.
I'm all done.
By vaccinating, you can feel good that you're doing everything you can to protect your child from harmful diseases. If you have questions about your child's vaccines, talk with your pediatrician and visit healthychildren.org.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has always taken a cautious approach responding to President Trump's criticisms, but that has now changed. What does their souring relationship mean for the central bank's future? Also, the radical steps we're taking to afford health insurance costs and the states to avoid if you plan to retire in 2026. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Coming up, you've heard through the news breaks, big news over the weekend, actually coming late Friday night. The county attorney resigning and submitted to the Cache County Council a resignation letter that I've got a copy of here in front of me, and I'll just put it this way. It's he pulls no punches in this. The county attorney being very clear about not only why he's leaving, but also some concerns he has that he says are very serious about the future of Cache County and Cache County government. Specifically, some recent decisions on where and what to cut that he says are short-sighted and ignore the reality of our fast-growing valley. So again, as I mentioned, I don't know the intimate details of every single situation. I do know that I recognize high turnover when I see it. And we've got some high turnover in county government, and it's concerning. And it makes me wonder if we, because of this, are going to lack the ability to do the planning that we need to do in order to, not have a mess on our hands as all this growth continues to come. So we'll talk about that at the start of hour 2 of today's show. Quickly here, state wildlife officials are investigating a suspected intentional killing of a mule deer fawn near Randolph around New Year's Eve. DNR said the incident occurred just about 7 p.m., they believe, on December 31st. And investigators determined that a vehicle traveling west of Randolph veered off the road on purpose to strike this deer fawn. Evidence recovered at the scene, including the tire tracks, indicates the animal was intentionally targeted by the driver, and officers are now asking for the public's assistance identifying the individual or the vehicle involved in the incident. And they're saying if you have any information, contact the Utah Turn In a Poacher hotline, UTIP, at 1-800-662-3337. You can also submit an anonymous tip by texting 847-411. I don't know why anyone, why would you do this? It doesn't make any sense, especially a fawn, considering what they're up against this time of year already. Just cruel. But statewide search for any information about this now documented incident of someone intentionally swerving to run over a young deer, a fawn, on the side of the road near Randolph. So we'll keep you posted, but some photos of the deer on the side of the road and the general area where this is alleged to have occurred, and then again information about the tip lines and more at cachevalleydaily.com. And coming up again on the other side, the county attorney, I believe our fourth, if I'm counting right. The Cache County attorney is resigning and has issued a resignation letter to the Cache County Council. I've got a copy of this here in front of me, and we'll run through some of the highlights and actual paragraphs in this somewhat lengthy resignation letter that I think could best be summarized as the county attorney saying, I'm out, and I have some concerns for the future. Not only the person that takes my job after I leave and go back to the private sector, but the future of the county in general when it comes to growth, public safety, the sheriff's office, and more. A pretty zesty resignation letter, to say the least. We'll break it down for you on the other side of these headlines here on KVNU Logan.
610 AM and 102 FM.
Best part of my day.
News Talk KVNU Logan. Proud to be locally owned and operated by the Cache Valley Media.